Good evening, everyone. First, I want to thank the Worcester Regional Research Bureau for inviting me to moderate tonight's panel discussion with three Worcester's past and present city managers. Tonight is historic. This is the first time these three leaders have sat down together at the same event to reflect on their tenures. And here's another milestone. 2025 marks the 75th anniversary of Worcester adopting the city manager form of government, beginning with Everett Merrill in 1950. Did you guys know that? No. Worcester introduced the city manager system in 1950 to bring professional management to city government. The city manager is appointed by the city council and oversees day-to-day operations, everything from public safety to infrastructure. Since 1950, Worcester has had 7 city managers and 26 mayors. I thought that was a fun fact, too. During that time, the city has transformed dramatically, from an industrial decline of the mid-20th century to the revitalization we see today. Think about the changes. The Canal District was once a forgotten part of the city, and now it's home to Polar Park and a thriving restaurant scene. Kelly Square, once infamous for its chaotic traffic patterns, now has a rotary that symbolizes progress and planning and an 8. These shifts don't happen overnight. They were shaped by leadership and collaboration. Today, the city manager oversees nearly 1,941 employees across 7 municipal departments, excluding Worcester Public Schools. It's a role that requires vision and coordination, especially as Worcester continues to grow as the 2nd largest city in New England. So with that, I'm honored to introduce our esteemed panelists. Their full bios are in that program that you received so that you can reference. So we're going to start. City Manager Eric Batista, Worcester's current city manager and appointed in 2022. Right next to me. Don't be scared. Secretary Augustus, now Secretary of Housing and Livable Communities, who served as city manager from 2014 to 2022. And former city manager Michael O'Brien, executive vice president at Wynn Companies, who served as city manager from 2004 to 2014. Thank you so much for being here. I'm honored to be on the stage with all of you. I got to kind of bug you when you were in your offices, so you guys remember me. Remember that, close. But this is really an incredible opportunity. So tell me, during your tenure or in your current role, what was the most impactful subject the Worcester Regional Research Bureau researched? That was a tongue twister. How did it influence your work? And what do you see as the Bureau's value to the city? We're going to start with former city manager O'Brien.
Thank you. It's great to be here as the ghost of Christmas past. And I want everybody to know that I am in demand for my wisdom and my experience as city manager. This is the second time I've been asked to speak on my tenure, so you can see that demand.
I just wanted to say you aged backwards since. Just want to give you credit.
The Research Bureau is a kind of bedrock foundation of the community and the work that we do in city government. You need perspective in the roles of city manager. You need input and data. And you've got a talented team around you to do that work, but external is as important as internal feedback. And so I can remember a report as we were trying to do thoughtful work and realigning the city government is whose call is it anyways? And this was about the response to emergencies, and did we need to roll fire engines as well as ambulances to every single call? And it was part of the debate and dialogue around this as we thought of how costly it was to run fire engines to every call, and how it increased the likelihood of some injury among our employees and otherwise. And so I would say that the Research Bureau's effect on city government, certainly over my tenure, was being able to provide that type of data and information, unbiased, as was said earlier. So it added to the conversation, added to the discussion and the debate.
Thank you. I remember that time. I think that, just how important that decision was and how it was responsive to, emergencies that we were seeing in the city. We were getting people seen quicker. Emergencies were being responded to fast. I remember that. Secretary Augustus, what about you?
Yeah, let me just echo the thanks for the opportunity to be here today. It's amazing to be here with these two gentlemen. Congratulations to the Bureau on 40 years. It's incredible. You've been around since before I was born, so it's something that's an amazing milestone. And certainly I've appreciated the partnership in my time as city manager, even in other roles that I've had over the years in the work that the Research Bureau has done. I'd highlight maybe two reports. One on the fire department, similarly. One of the worst parts of my time as city manager were 2 line of deaths in the fire department. That followed one that happened during Mike's time, and then, of course, the warehouse fire where we lost 6 firefighters. That's an astronomical number of firefighters for a city this size to lose in that period of time. And we really needed to get our arms around what else could and should we be doing in order to make an inherently dangerous job as less dangerous as humanly possible. And so the Research Bureau, I think, provided a lot of good guidance that allowed us to go forward pursuing accreditation and making some changes that I think have allowed the fire department to continue to be an effective part of our emergency response system here in Worcester, but hopefully taken some of the danger out of a very dangerous profession. And secondly, I'd say parking, which is maybe less kind of dramatic, but very important. And there's always conversations about parking. Worcester in particular, somebody who grew up here, we love to talk about parking. We want to have our parking spot in front of wherever we want to go, and we want it to be free. And so anytime there's a challenge to that, there's a big conversation around parking. And we had that conversation when we were talking about the possibility of Polar Park, because everybody said, oh my God, there's no parking in the Canal District. There's no parking anywhere. And we, working with the Research Bureau, identified about 6,000 parking spots within a quarter-mile radius of Polar Park, which hopefully reminded people that walking a little bit wasn't the worst thing in the world, and it might actually support some of the retail and some of the businesses along that walk. And those walks create the sense and the reality of safety and security and vibrancy on streets. And so I think that helped both the city council as we were discussing Polar Park and how it would work and whether it would work, and the folks in the Canal District and downtown, that the development and parking related issues would be not the problem that people were worried about.
Absolutely. City Manager Batista?
First of all, just same thing that they've echoed. I want to echo again to Paul Kelly, Paul Matthews, and the leadership of the Research Bureau. Thank you for having us. As you know, it's historic for us to be here, and we're extremely excited. And so for me, it's been more so the report that was done about the schools, the infrastructure of the schools, and the importance of how do you financially structure your finances to pay for that. And right now, as we going through very tough economic times, inflation, costs, you name it, everything, is how do we figure out a way to build or maintain and sustain some of our current infrastructure. And I think, understanding that and having an outside perspective, and then having the Bureau play a role at the state level to advocate, to bring that voice, it plays a big role, because oftentimes we feel like we're by ourselves kind of championing or fighting the good fight. And when we talk about finances and resources, they become limited. And we as city managers, our job is to always be good stewards of those dollars and try to make sure that we're keeping our minds focused on on the utilization of those dollars. And so reports like that help us and guide us to provide some strategy, some perspective. So as we look at the bigger picture about the importance of our young people, the youth, right? Because people don't move. Yes, it's great to have all these economic growth, but people still want good schools. and the schools matter. And so we want to provide the safety in our schools in an environment that kids can learn. And so I think that, to me, was a great report because it's, as you can see, it's continued the advocacy with all the state partners at the state level to seek more funding for that.
And it's interesting, we'll get to that a little bit later, how each of you during your tenures as city managers, you built new schools for our district, which were transformative for them. Our North High School, our Trade, our South Doherty. I mean, we've seen so much change already, and in the importance of how that report helped to inform that and get those dollars, because those are not inexpensive buildings, right? No. So on that note, former city manager, during your time from 2004 to 2014, Worcester saw major downtown redevelopment in the early stages of the Canal District revival. What were your biggest challenges of that period, and how did you address them?
So if you looked at Worcester back in 2004, city government, there had been some tumult. City manager was asked to no longer serve, and I was asked to come in as an acting city manager, so a member of the Actors Union. Yeah. And at that point in time, there was kind of a rudderless focus on who we are and what we are and what we can be, and embrace every single one of those. And so there was work to be done. First, we had to get the city finances in order, and that was a lot of work. We had lived through a period of kind of boom and bust, and over that time, those budget cycles created real strain, 6-month views out, and the like. So getting that set was important, because if you want to project success, if you want to project opportunities to others, you have to be able to point to the fact that city government's here, it's stable, and certainly ready for business. And that took a lot of work. And you have to kind of walk as you chew gum. So we were in the process of, meeting with people from New York that wanted to develop in the city early in my tenure. And I can just give you a case in point. When I sat in my office, I asked, could I see, a map of downtown so I can point some of these issues out? And I was given maybe a 12 by 12 picture in a frame where the grass was cracked. And I had to put that down in front of New York investors to say, come to Worcester. Kind of scary. Yeah. And so with that, we really did work on our game and making sure that we could convey that sense of success and progress and also stability. Then economic development in downtown, everybody would say that the former mall was a deterrent, visual, intellectually, and psychology-wise. And so something had to be done. And that was a big undertaking, right? What are you going to do with the future there? And I would say that the community didn't have a lot of confidence. And that's from many years of what was discussed earlier, boom bust, economy changes, and the like. And so that whole process started with, then Mayor Murray with a reach out to Cigna to say, let's do a developer RFP and get some people interested in this thing. Even during that time, people were like, nothing's going to happen. And so you had to convey that sense of confidence. You had to continue to work with the community. You had to build relationships and get people excited. And through time and through lots of people's work, it takes a village. That signal of that mall, which kind of stuck in people's mind in downtown, we were able to put together in really tough economic times in 2007 and 2008, a plan to have that demolished and what you see out there today happen. And it wouldn't happen without the state that was involved, Jim McGovern in the federal level, and then city government really taking an active role, as well as the community, to say, let's get this done. And I would say that was a signal to the world that we get it, that we can do big things and small things, and ultimately get things done. And so that was, to me, where downtown started to factor, and this idea of building blocks of catalyst areas, and ultimately creating, enough movement, enough positive progress to see others take a close look at Worcester. And I would say from my development side, after my years as city manager, is good money follows good money. And people are looking for solid investments, and their money's green everywhere. So they want to go to where they can actually do something and create opportunities for themselves as well as for the community. So I think that about sums up the period of 2004 to 14. Lots of other things happened, but that was probably the biggest.
Well, I think what I hear is courage, trust, collaboration, and vision. That you had to have that, and you brought that forward. You brought our community together. You opened doors. You made us see the possibility, and wow, look at it now.
Yeah,
Right?
there was a bit of insanity mixed in
I
there,
mean,
too.
yeah, of course, a little insanity. Secretary Augustus, on that note, your tenure included opening of Polar Park and the significant investment in housing and schools. What were the challenges, and how did you navigate that?
I think one of the points that Mike made is an important one, because I think we confronted it, but maybe a little less so by the time Polar Park's opportunity rolled around. Again, having grown up in Worcester, I remember a lot of almost like self-deprecation that was almost in the water in Worcester. Like, it'll never happen here. It won't work here. And there were psychological kind of barriers that Worcester had to get over. For the longest time, Union Station, you drive by 290, it had no roof. It was a condemned building, and it was a symbol of an era that had gone by. And it was kind of a reminder every day of what had been, but what wasn't in the current day. For a long time, the airport similarly didn't have airlines servicing the airport. It was just another reminder. And so along the way, all of the different efforts by a lot of people, some on the stage, many in this room, had to overcome each of those psychological barriers so Worcester could kind of lift itself up and say, you know what, we're the second largest city in New England. Of course we can do this. We can chase something, we can pursue it, and it's not like it's luck, or we have the ability to attract the kind of investment and development. And I think that's hopefully the spirit that we brought to pursuing Polar Park. Now, there were some people who said, Worcester got played 20 years before, when there was some conversation about the possible relocation of the Pawtucket Red Sox to Worcester. Whether or not that was true then, the different ownership group, it was a different period of time. Worcester was in a different place. And I have to give the city credit. I rarely have seen the city come together in such a unified way. 10,000 postcards came from just average people in the city of Worcester signing those postcards saying, hey, we want you to think about coming here. We had the city council unanimously vote to ask me to do everything I could to chase the opportunity. We had the business community, about 100 people who signed a letter, college presidents, business leaders, talking about how they endorsed this effort and would support the team if it relocated. We were able to build an alliance with the state where Governor Baker here at the DCU said we're going to back Worcester's effort and provide some significant state dollars behind that effort. And it was just the alignment. And we had 18 communities around New England who were chasing that team at that time. Nobody had that unanimity. Nobody had that kind of unanimous support from the community. And that was a card that was very important for us as we sat down with Lucchino and the ownership group and talk about the benefits of Worcester and why it would make sense to relocate here to the city of Worcester. So I think, you can never get unanimous anything, but to the extent that you can build a coalition that is representative of all of the different facets and parts of our community, I think is just so much power behind that, and I think differentiated ourselves from other communities. And that was partly because we had overcome some of those earlier barriers where people didn't think we could do it, and then we did it. And then hopefully we had a sense of, hey, this is Worcester's time, Worcester can do it.
Yeah, I have to tell you, I did put my bucket to keep my parking space over in the parking, it is so accessible.
Yeah.
All of the, like, is this really going to happen? It is the most beautiful thing to come drive down Vernon Hill and just to see the change in the skyline. Just our city, born and raised in Worcester my whole life, left to do work and have different experiences, but you always come home. And the wonderful thing about Worcester is that it's changed, it's evolved, and it is beautiful. We had a mall that, we used to be Galleria, used to go there when I was a kid, and then it just changed, and it's accessible and it's beautiful. So I thank you so much for that, just to have that vision, have that thought. It really is, for me, I love Worcester. It's my city, and I'm proud of it because of all of the changes that you've helped lead for us. So I don't know if anyone said that, but I want you guys to know that I am proud of this city because of the changes you've made. So on that note, City Manager Batista, you've led during a time of rapid growth and increasing diversity. What are your current challenges, and what solutions do you think you can bring forward?
It's a great question. It's a big one. I had the pleasure, I was hired by Michael Bryan, and I served under Michael Bryan for a couple of years, and then I served during Augustus' entire tenure. So I had the opportunity, the pleasure, the privilege to witness all of this. I was there at the ribbon cutting of Front Street, opening it up when we had all the antique cars coming through, and it was freezing cold. Freezing cold. I remember that day. I remember the groundbreaking of Polo Park, and I remember all the conversations and all the fights and everything that's happened in between to understand, right, what's the equation? How do we put this? What's the formula to make this happen, and get the city moving and forward? And from what I've learned and what I've seen from them, it's not more so about them. It's more so about how they leveraged all of you, because all of you who are sitting here, from the higher ed community to the commercials to the bank industry, all of you have played a significant role in City Square, and Polo Park, and the whole development and everything that's like, it's all of you who had participated in that. And that's where, for me, is during these times of challenges, where we're navigating all types of challenge, housing has become number one crisis, right? We have a former city manager who left city manager to be secretary of housing. Now, housing crisis, I said, are you a masochist or something? Like, why would you do that to yourself? Leave city manager
Fantastic question.
to be the secretary of housing when during housing. And so, one of the things is housing, right? How do we build more housing? How do we provide better access and opportunity for growth and development in housing in the city and all the different levels of housing? But it's not just housing, right? We can't just be a bedroom community. How do we also provide space for the commercial to develop in the city and bring biomanufacturing, bring the life sciences into our city to create the jobs that we need for the people to be well employed and have the good salaries to live in the city, right? And so those are the things that right now we're trying to understand and create a vision for that. We have a big mammoth in the city that I'm gonna put out there. It's the Worcester Auditorium, right? And as he had the mall, which, by the way, I worked at Lids, Fashion Outlets. He had the mall to deal with. He had, acres of land that were extremely contaminated for 20 plus years that he had to deal with. We have an auditorium that we need to address. And it's an area that we need to put our focus as a community, because if we don't, we're going to lose that building, right? And if this is something that we as a city are committed to in preserving the history of who we are as a community and everything that has happening in that building, is how do we put together a plan, a strategy to address Lincoln Square, the auditorium, et cetera, et cetera. So that's an area that we're planning for, we're strategizing, we're thinking through of City Square. It provides an opportunity, a gateway to WPI and all the work that WPI is doing there, to the Gateway Park that's done, the work that MCPHS has done in the area. It provides an opportunity for us to continue to develop the life sciences and the biomanufacturing in the city. But in the midst of that, there are people in the city that are really hurting. We had to, move very quickly to address issues around SNAP in the city. Rents are increasing in the city. There are significant issues that our people in our cities are dealing with, ICE in our communities, right? And so those are the things that right now, as a city manager, you have to adapt. You got to move quickly. You got to depend and rely on community perspective and ideas and conversations to figure out how do you move. What are the things that you have to do to leverage the state and go to the state and say, hey, I need more money for housing, and utilize other partners, whether it's the federal government and others. So those are the kind of the challenges that we're facing today, but it's also the opportunities of what we can do in the future, of what's the next, right? For me is what's the next area that Worcester wants to redevelop, focus on, what's that vision? And right now, the area that, through the leadership of Peter Dunn and all the work that he is doing for the city, is trying to think, how do we preserve the auditorium? And and there's many people in this room who are playing a significant role right now in helping us think through that and process and look at the numbers and state governments and federal governments and utilizing the current governor to help us, support us, to try to get us through that hurdle. And I think that's the beauty of it. So again, it all comes down, if you see the common denominator, it all comes down to all of you, because all of you play the role for us to be able to do what we do as city managers.
That's an incredible kind of perspective, is to understand through your eyes what you see. So it's not just about the development of this city and making sure that we keep our historical buildings vibrant and here. It's not just, continuing to think about the vision forward, but it's about today. You have to think about today while you're still looking towards tomorrow. So I think that's just an important perspective that we don't think about when we see you in your roles. You're running this city. You're trying to, push things forward. But when we have a SNAP issue, you guys showed up. You had to show up as a city, and I don't know if everyone realized the role you played in making sure that, when SNAP benefits were cut, families were able to get access to food during those difficult times. At the same time, you were probably meeting to talk about Burncoat High School. So, Burncoat High School, Worcester Auditorium. I graduated. My graduation was held there. It was such a beautiful place. It was so nice. So yes, we should restore that just for me. We got to think about that. But no, I think that's important, just to see the view is when you're not just sitting in that office trying to keep the city moving forward and making sure that our municipalities are functioning and doing what they need to do, but you're thinking about everyone who lives here, who wants to stay here, who wants to raise their family here, and about the future here, our children, and what their future looks like, where there's opportunities, where there's pathways, and we want to keep them here. We've got some great colleges. We want them to stay here, so this is really important. So I just want you guys to humor me. I was told that I had to wrap up. I only got through one question. And if you look at this, look who we have up on the stage. Do you guys want me to take 10 more minutes or just ask one more question, like a closing question on what they might think about the future of our city and how the Worcester region, you guys give me 10 more minutes? Oh my God, I love you guys. So we're gonna just cut right to the final question. This is such an opportune time. If you guys wanna do this again, we can schedule it. Big stage, just let me know. Who can moderate that? So looking ahead, what's your hope for Worcester's future, and how can the Worcester Regional Research Bureau help make that vision a reality? I'm gonna start with former City Manager O'Brien.
Well, thank you. As to the future, I would say that Worcester quality, the quality of the community, the quality of the collaboration, the quality of the diversity, all those factors are just amazing. And since my work as city manager, which I was blessed to do, I'm all over the country, and I'm in places where city councils are literally swearing at each other across a room during public meetings. I'm in rooms where the higher ed community doesn't even speak to the city. And so you recognize what a special place it is when you get the perspective of the rest of the world. And so Worcester's future is bright, very bright. And I think it's building on those same building blocks we talked about. And paying attention to med and eds because they're under a great deal of strain right now, and there's going to be some evolution of that strain, and much of the local economy is based on that. And so that's going to be something to pay attention to. I think the proximity to the suburb to the east, Boston, is important, and it needs to be embraced because there's that connection now. People are recognizing the value of Worcester for all it has, its cultural offerings, its quality of life, and they may work in Boston 3 days a week, but they're able to live out here on a salary and be able to live and not be under great strain because it's a lower cost of living, but be able to get into Boston 3 days a week on commuter rail. That's going to continue, and it's going to happen by the very nature of population growth, the fact that the word's out about Worcester, and I think that's something that's going to be part of that positive future is the glow of the capital city of Massachusetts, but also the reality of the second largest city having its act together and offering so much to those that may be working outside of Worcester, but able to live here, and for companies to be able to lower their costs from what might be a Boston address to a Worcester address, where they can actually use that to help please their stockholders, to end up with a better employee base that's not exhausted for sitting in the traffic for an hour and 45 minutes and only going 20 miles. I'm convinced in my commute that I can get there quicker on Slothback because of how bad the traffic is. So there's a lot to be said about that in Worcester. I think the future's bright. It's my favorite city of all. And I would tell you that the word's out. So I've been in meetings in Buffalo, New York. I've been in meetings in North Carolina where the Worcester's name comes up. And I think that's testament to the work that's been done by everybody and what the future holds. And it's almost like the Worcester miracle in the fact that we came together, we worked together, and we set a course, and we've achieved things, and there are great things to come.
Yeah, I love that perspective as having a view that's beyond Worcester to see how great Worcester is. Sometimes you have to look beyond where we are to see all of the accomplishments. I know when I'm in Detroit and when I'm in any of our other field offices, we have like 37 field offices, and every time I come back to Worcester, I appreciate where we are and how far we've come. So I really appreciate that view because I think that really does show where we're going. Secretary Augustus.
I think Worcester's future is bright. I think people are voting with their feet. The fact that we are one of the fastest growing cities in New England and even in the Northeast is testimony. People don't move to cities that they think are going in the wrong direction. They don't move to cities they think are unsafe. They don't move to cities that they don't think there's a good quality of life or a good quality of education. So the fact that our population continues to rise and projections are that at the next census it's going to continue to rise even further, I think is validation that Worcester is on the move. It's not just a slogan. There were a lot of slogans 20, 30, 40 years ago about Worcester on the move. They weren't true. I think it's demonstrably true now, the fact that we've added so much population. And that is an opportunity, but it's also a challenge. It's an opportunity because when you get more people, more density, you can attract more retail, more business, more attention. But I think one of the things that distinguishes Worcester is I've always called it a Goldilocks community. It's big enough that it has colleges, it has hospitals, it has museums and cultural institutions, it has family foundations, it has a lot of things that smaller communities don't. But it's small enough that when you really need to get something done, you can get the right people around the table or on the phone or in a meeting and say, hey, we're going to chase Polar Park. Or we've got a global pandemic that we don't know how this is going to turn out. We need to rally the community together and to figure out how to prop up different institutions and meet immediate needs. And we're able to do that. And so that's what's special about Worcester, I think, our size, but what we have in this community. And I think the only thing that threatens Worcester's future is ourselves. And I would just urge us as a community to figure out, we can have vigorous debates. We've always had vigorous debates since the first founding of the city. That's okay. It's okay to disagree, but we got to find a way to do it in a civil way that, respects the other opinion and doesn't divide the community. Because I think, again, going back to my Polar Park analogy, or our response to COVID, or, the city coming together around SNAP, any of that, we need to be able to rally together when the moment calls for it or when the opportunity presents itself. That's what's special about Worcester. So as we grow and expand, let's not lose what's so special about the city.
Oh, I agree. We really are a small, tight community, and when we really want to make something happen and get something done, when we come together, we can do it. So we're the only ones who stand in our way. So I appreciate that. That is so true. Thank you. Thank you for that. City Manager Batista?
The Worcester today and the Worcester of tomorrow will rely on exactly what Ed just said. And I'm just going to a little bit echo that, but add a little bit more. It's going to rely on all of us, again, willing to roll up our sleeves and go to work, respect one another and the differences of opinions and thoughts, and try to get to work. There is one of the challenges about Worcester. There's a good thing and a bad thing. Is the growth that we've had, right? Because when Worcester has grown so fast, it means that it demands so much more of the municipality and the overall as a city. Our long-range master plan and our housing production plan both have a prediction or an estimate that by 2040, Worcester would have a growth of more than close to 60 more thousand people in the city. Just think about that. Where are we going to fit 60,000 more people in the city? In the 2020 census, it showed that we had about roughly 25 to 30,000 more people came to the city. And we know we're already lagging behind on housing. We need to produce roughly 12,000 units by 2033 to meet the demand, right? At all levels, affordable, et cetera. And we have to be able to do that. And how do we do that if we're going to get there by 2040 with 60 more thousand people? That's going to require strong leadership. It's going to require collaboration. And it's going to require all of us to roll up our sleeves, go to work, respect one another, and do the work that needs to be done to see the city grow and prosper the way it needs to. Because a lot of the work that has to happen in this community doesn't happen without its economic growth, the tax base. Mm-hmm. I was having a conversation previously with former Commissioner of DPW, the legend, Bob Moylan, and he said that he remembers his time when the city's budget was only $200 million. This year, we're inching $1 billion. $1 billion.
I mean, I feel like that's progress and something we should clap about, too. That's
growth. That's growth. Thank you,
right?
Tim. Thank you.
Wow.
Tim is doing a great job managing that. But that just shows the growth of this city. Mm-hmm. That the tax base is increasing year over year. And again, every revenue that comes in, it goes out, right? And so again, the future is bright for this community, but it doesn't happen, and it won't continue without all of us continuing that path, working together as partners, making sure that we have and we understand what the North Star is.
So thank you all, because this was an incredible conversation to have. I love your vision. I love what you brought forward to bring us to where we are today. I love the comment about that we are going to not always agree on everything, and that's okay. I think that's so critically important if we want to move forward, is that we don't always have to agree. We just have to get to the other side. And sometimes that means you got to ruffle a few feathers, but when we get to the other side, you get to see $1 billion budget. I mean, right? That's how we get there. So thank you so much. I didn't talk about as much about the Worcester Regional Research Bureau, but I think we all understand that their work was informed by that progress. Those reports helped to take us to those next levels so that we could have those informed discussions, so that we could have those arguments and say, you know, I hear you, but let's just look at the research, which might help to propel us to that next level. So I just want to say thank you, because we couldn't do this work and have this progress without Worcester Regional Research Bureau. So thank you. So thank you for that 40 years of advocacy and advancing us, and thank you, because this city is what it is because of you. I just want you to know I am so thankful for you and your leadership.
Thank you.